We're going to give everybody a chance to come in, but welcome to District 4, the best place to be for information and news. We are talking financial freedom. And I'm going to give you guys a few minutes before I get started. So if you have any questions or anything already, put them in the comment section. Okay, so welcome to District 4, the best place to be, like I said, for information and news. We are talking and continuing our series on financial literacy. And the best part about this series is that it's built on top of each other. So if you look at the playlist, make sure you go when you come on here to the playlist. Push play, it'll take you all the way through and help build on top of each other so that you're actually genuinely learning practical things that you can do immediately, and also changing your mindset a little bit so that you're able to be receptive to the information that I'm giving you. Today we are talking about the top reasons poor people stay poor. Now you're like, okay, I get where you're trying to go with that, but I'm not exactly sure what that means. It basically means, so I want you to see the factors that you're up against, to have a realistic point of view about your finances and how it is that you arrived to where you are. Also consider outside factors and other things besides just your lack of literacy. Sometimes it is you had a lack of literacy for a reason, or whatever contributes to your mindset as well as the point. So I'm going to start with giving you some stats. Remember, we're going to get a little bit more technical this time, only because I'm giving you statistical data, and I don't want to bore you, so I'm not going to do too much of it. But I want to show that 8.8% of African Americans live in poverty. We have 15.7% of Hispanics that are legal in the country living in poverty. And I only said that part because it attributes to how the data is taken. And then we have 23% of Native Americans live in poverty versus the 7.3% of the white community. This is not a racial class at all. I'm not talking about race here. We're talking about finances, and we're talking about what would be the differences and why is it that these statistics are the way that they are. Now, I can hear somebody out there clearly saying, oh, it's racism, it's the racist, and partially yes. But even racism is based on finance, right? How did it even start? It started to getting someone to work for free so that it can earn you money. So if you think of it in that terms, because it has to apply to finance, because that's what we're talking about here, we want to look at it from a financial standpoint, because the key to anybody's survival or success, some people even say respect, give or take, is their ability to earn and to contribute financially to anything. Even if you looked at slavery as the example, because I know someone out there is talking about that. How, if you look at Roots, the story, the end story of the second generation was that they were able to earn. And George was able to buy his family out of slavery. Other than the obvious other factors, that was his dad and so forth. But if you're just looking at it from a fiduciary, it ended at the point where he had the ability to make people money. Just something to think about. Now, do not write in and send me a bunch of hate mail and tell me, talk to me about racism. That's not really where I'm going with that. I was going with that to support the statistical data to kind of give you a different perspective. My whole point in anything that I'm saying in the financial literacy series is to change your perspective, to stop looking at things just as the way that you have been looking at them from before. Okay, so the only reason I bring that up. Okay, so let's talk about a little bit. So I say things that keep poor people poor. Now, this is poor in mindset. This is again, if you look at the other series of videos up until this point, we have talked mostly about how someone's mindset can contribute to their poverty. It is essential to understand that to hear the next part of this information. It is essential because I need you to understand that I'm trying to get you to look at money and build your relationship with money in a different way by taking away some of the blocks that you have. And it's done subtly, but it is also done to be impactful. So I just want to keep that in mind. Generational wealth, because number one is many poor people do not have generational wealth. They just don't. It could be maybe you're the first generation. I'll buy that. But anytime before that, you didn't have it. So if you can imagine, if I start out at 0 and my best friend starts out at 50,000, which one of us is going to have the more opportunities? Which one of us has more choices? Which one of us has more resources available to them to do things? What if we both wanted to start a business? Now I'm starting with 0. This person's starting with 50,000. Do they have more choices and options than I would have? So generational wealth sometimes proves to be a very serious thing because many people, some of you watching this automatically know this, but some of you watching this do not know this, that there is a difference between old money and new money. There just is. And it's reputation, it's building, right? If I am a Kennedy, that means I've had money for a long time. My mindset is going to be different. The trust level is going to be different. And the ability to give back to my relationships is going to be different than if my name is James, right? My last name is James, right? And I have nothing to give. When you get to a certain financial level, realistically speaking, people think that the gap is so big in finances because, rich people were all born rich. That's not really true. It's really because you have to be able to give back in a certain level. Otherwise, the relationship is imbalanced, right? Right? If I come across somebody and I am a multimillionaire and I come across somebody that, only has a couple $100,000 to give, the relationship will work only to a certain extent as far as business is concerned, because then you start feeling like you're giving too much. So generational wealth does make a difference. It makes a difference in your opportunities. It makes a difference in your choices, and it makes a difference from where you're starting, right? It's harder to start from 0. You've got generation after generation starting with no money. They have to start over every generation. There is no building. It starts over every single generation, right? Everybody starts 0 every generation, and it's difficult. So you're creating generational poverty by not having old money, right, or generational money. And a lot of people watching this, some of you are like, oh yeah, well, we have generational money. I get it. I got you. But some of you are watching like, what? What are you talking about? Like I didn't come here for a history lesson. It's not a history lesson. It is a reality check financially from where you start. Do you understand? It's why you stay poor. Because you're actually starting from 0 every generation. And that stands to make a difference. It really does. If somebody walked up and gave you, I don't know what's a lot of money to poor people, $100,000, you're probably going to be like, woo! Why? Because you recognize what it can do for you. But if somebody took $100,000 from you, you're going to be like, okay, because you recognize what's missing when they take that away from you. So it's another way to look at it. Another way is no portfolio or a desire to have a portfolio. Now you're like, okay, Algie, keep talking portfolio. We hear this every single, and I'm going to keep telling you this because I want you to understand what that means. I broke it down very clearly in the roadmap to financial freedom, which is one of the videos that I did. I broke it down on purpose. I broke it down because I want you to understand that if I give you $50,000, okay, and you had zero, so this is going to be like, oh my God, I'm excited, very happy, and you don't invest it in something, and I don't mean necessarily the stock market. Maybe you buy, you get a franchise. I don't know any franchise that low, but I'm just using that as an example. If you could afford a franchise at 50,000, let's say that there was one out of nowhere, or anything that gives you money back. That's what a portfolio does for you. Your whole goal with even having a job should be to get that money in something. So when you hear a financial advisor say, you need to invest, they're not necessarily just saying the stock market. They're saying get something that makes you money while you're sleeping. Right? If I own a restaurant, I don't have to be there all the time. If it's successful, right? Or if I'm making money from it. I'm not there actually cooking the food. I'm there and then I'm not there. But it is an investment, right? So don't let the term scare you. So when you hear the word investment, invest in your portfolio, that's what they're saying. They're saying put your money in something that makes you money, ideally, while you're sleeping. Not like physically sleep, but like even that too, but that's basically what it's saying. So most people that don't have financial literacy hear those terms and shut down. They're completely done listening. They don't have any money. They're not interested in the stock market. It's never going to happen. So it is an unreachable goal. So your desire to do that is gone. It's not there. But that's not really true. If you start to understand, now we're getting into the technicals, what a financial advisor means when he says to invest in something, or somebody giving you good financial advice, and they say invest your money, that's what they mean. They mean put your money into something that makes you money. A portfolio is another way of saying you have multiple of these. You ever heard the term diversify? It's like a big word for people that are financially literate, and you're looking at them like, you know what, I'm not hearing anything you're saying. I don't really care. I don't have enough money. It just basically means you have several places where your money is earning you money. And I explained that before, but I want to drive this home, because if you're not understanding this, you will stay poor out of ignorance because you don't understand the terms. Like a legal contract, right? Some people just sign it. They don't read it. They don't try to read it. They're like, it's legal. I don't have any idea what's going on. I'm just going to sign this because now I want, whatever this contract is bringing me. But not looking at what this contract is actually doing for them. And best example of that is the music industry, right? You get signed to 7-year contracts in there sometimes. And you haven't read it. You have no idea what's happening. You have no idea what's happening. It's the same thing financially. You'll automatically, if I sit somebody down and they may not have, they're just talking to me normally and they kind of don't know I know anything about finance, and I might say, well, did you build a portfolio? They pretty much stop talking to me at that point. I have to go in and explain, no. Where do you put your money at? I have to ask that question. So I'm doing that here by letting you know that lack of knowledge is keeping you poor. Because it kills your desire. Your desire to do something that's beneficial for you at any income level. It is a place to build. Okay, so we also have the ability to financially adapt. Now, the heart of this keeping you poor is that you don't have an emergency fund. You don't have one. And not seeing the value in it. I mean, people aren't going to do anything that shows no value to them, right? And when I said in one video that the average person doesn't even have $400 if an emergency happens, they don't have the $400 to pay, say if your car broke down or something, or if you needed to replace something on something, or if somebody got sick. A lot of times people are like, I'm fine. Now I'm speaking to the people that are financially free. Oh, I'm fine. I have my job. I've been on my job for several years. I've got a little savings. Alex, I hear what you're saying to the super poor people, but I'm not really poor. What happens if you get sick and you have to now pay medical bills? I'll wait. Because the truth of the matter is, medical bills are never cheap. I don't care how much money you have. You can pay countless amounts of dollars depending on how long you're sick, what you have, how many visits. I mean, that. Okay, you're like, okay, I'm perfectly healthy. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm going to be perfectly fine. Okay, but your spouse, your child. You know, sickness is something you cannot plan for, especially if it's terminal. So you're not fine if you don't have an emergency fund, because let's say you're just depending on your paycheck's done, you've been living on these great paychecks, and now you have to downsize. Do you want to do that in the middle of a crisis if somebody's sick? Do you want to have to, okay, now I've got to put my house up for sale because I need the money because I'm paying all these medical expenses, and you start panicking. I got to drain the savings that I have, and I can't go to work as often, and I might get fired. You don't want to have to live in a panic. Which, for you that are financially free and somewhat rich, you're probably looking at the first part of this video like, this doesn't apply to me. Yes, it does. It applies to you, because if you don't have an emergency fund, if you don't have the ability to adapt financially, and it's only based on what's happening, over time it happens to you. You say, I've got a savings, no, stop it. I'm perfectly fine. Yeah, but not if you have medical bills, and please, I've been there. Okay, someone gets terminally ill and you're responsible for the payment. It could be a grandmother. It could be a funeral that someone put your name on. It could be anything. That's going to drain you super quick. It's also going to hinder your ability to go to work, especially if you're the sole provider. And you have to be the sole caretaker, or be there to support the sole caretaker. These are things that you have to keep in mind. So it does affect you unless you're wealthy. If you're wealthy, you might be sad and emotionally upset, but you don't have to change much about your life. Nothing's going on. You ain't selling anything. You're not, you're firing your chef. You're not doing any of that. You're not freaking out because you can't go to the office. It doesn't matter because you're probably not going to the office anyway. So, your companies are running themselves. Or company, if you only have one. That's running itself, which is probably not likely, but let's say you have only one. So this does affect you. So you have to be able to adapt financially, which means you need an emergency fund. Now, this is you're gonna be mad at me if you're not mad already or throughout this entire series, because I'm saying a whole bunch of stuff that hits home for a lot of people. But selfishness. Now you're like, what? I know a lot of selfish rich people. Well, not rich, but I know a lot of selfish people that are wealthy. Well, first of all, you probably don't know a lot of wealthy people if you're asking that question. And second of all, it's probably because they've had money a long time. Which would probably allude to the fact that you got it from somewhere else. It's not you being in the situation where you're earning, where you're building something. Somebody gave you something to start with. I am very familiar with this, trust me. Trust me. Selfishness, a lot of people that are poor and that stay poor is because they're selfish. Now, you're like, what does that mean, selfish? I don't mean they're not giving people. I'm not saying. I'm saying in state of mind. Like, you're holding on so desperately to the little bit you do have that you're not opening your mind and your hand to anything new. Okay? Now, on the surface, this sounds like it makes zero sense. Like, what difference does it make? It makes a huge difference, because the tighter you hold on to something, the less likely you are to keep it. Don't believe me? Go hang on tight to your relationship. Just start suffocating the heck out of your husband or wife. Just give it a shot. They will be ready to leave, depending upon how strict you are, pretty quickly. There's something about just hanging on to something that doesn't allow for things to flow, right? And your finances are the same way. If you're too scared to apply your finances to anything, you're too selfish to donate. You're like, what, donate? What? Slow down. What do you mean donate? I can't donate because I can afford to donate. First of all, a lot of people that don't think they can afford to donate, quote unquote, actually do donate anyway. But the reason why is because let's say you donate and you meet someone. When you donate to a program and there's another program that they know about that can help you. You don't know. but you never gave in the first place, so you're not even gonna meet those people because you don't go in those circles, right? You give occasionally at the grocery store when they say, do you want to pay $1 for children's hospital? You say, maybe yes. And most of the time people say, so I mean that type of selfishness. I don't mean you are not a giving person or you are a selfish person. I mean you're hanging on too tightly to the little morsels that you have. It is killing you in the long run because you're never going to be open enough to find and meet the things that you need to grow. Now, if you want to stay where you are, continue. Okay, so I'm going to get a lot of hate mail, but don't send me hate mail. I'm trying to help. Okay, and then no support system. Now, this is what people don't think about with finances. They just don't. They're thinking, and a good example almost always is you have to go to the single mother example, right? You have to go to the divorced mom example. You have to go to the married couple that were living on one income example. But you also have to come to just people getting divorced, period example. Now, what does all this mean? You have no school. I'm a young person. I grew up in the, distressed area, impoverished area. My parents were poor, their parents were poor. And I have to figure out, or in my mind, how to get out of this situation, right? Nobody ever has any money. I'm tired of wearing old clothes. Whatever motivates you. Do you understand? And I'm motivated to get out. Now I'm silent for a reason, right? How do I do that? I have to go seek support, right? I have to go online and I have to start looking for a whole bunch of stuff that is already available to somebody in a different financial situation. It's easy to give up when you don't have support. You may even have good intentions. Say I got straight A's when I was going to for Los Angeles Crenshaw High, for example, or whatever the local school is in that area. And let's just say I'm going there and I've got straight A's and I get accepted to Harvard. And I worked really hard and I'm like, great, I can get out of here. I'm so happy. And they show me Harvard's bill for the year. And even with a student loan or some sort of God-willing scholarship, I still don't have enough money. I can't go. I can't go if I am another child graduating from Beverly Hills High and I get accepted to Harvard or I get help getting into Harvard. And I say what the bill is and I go, hey, Dad, Mom, I know you don't want to help me, but I really need to not have a heavy student loan at the end, and I know I haven't been acting correctly, but please help me out. And your parents said, I don't want to do this. You're going to have to pay me back. But I will help you. At least the first year I'm going to get, that's very different. That's very different than not having the resource at all. One gets to go, the other does not. The other one has to find other alternatives. So I used, someone asked me in one of the videos, how did I get a lot of my financial advice? And I said I had a mentor. Well, I had to be in a place to get a mentor, right? I had to be on the Paramount lot to get to know A.C. Lyles in order to get him to mentor me. If I don't have that support to even get to that place, it would have never happened, right? Also, I had my parents, but that's a whole other story. But yeah, so I say a lack of support system. Now, why am I telling you any of these things? Because they all sound like things you cannot control. I'm telling you these things because you have to know in order to build something what you're up against. Goes back to the state of mind. I have to trick you into that every single time because some of you looked at my Road to Financial Freedom video and was like, I'm not doing that. And I hear you. I hear you out there saying it. You looked at it and was like, oh, this is interesting. I'm not doing any of that. I'm just not doing that. I'm not in a place. And you start talking yourself out of moving forward. Just do. And I get it. I completely get it. This is why I'm breaking it down to you the way that I'm breaking it down to you. It's because I do get it. I do understand. So I'm trying to get you to change that mindset. Especially if you are held back by other factors, such as race or things that you have been deemed to be stumbling blocks to you from the beginning. You're already poor, you're a minority, I don't know, most people, whatever people tell you when they're poor and need an excuse for stuff that they didn't do to tell you that you can't do it. So you need that support system is basically what I'm saying. And the reason why I'm telling you all of these factors, and you know what you're up against, so now we can move past it, right? We can listen a little bit more to see that, okay, she understands, she gets it. If you understand that I get it, then I can help you follow what I need to do. What you need to do in order to get there. Okay? So, these are the mindsets, these are the things that will keep you poor. Now let's talk about some of the ways to get yourself out of these, right? Well, some people say education. And people that have been financially, with two-parent household and they grew up with money and, we all kind of sort of brush away from education, right? We don't really, maybe I need a diploma, maybe I don't. I do have one, by the way, an advanced degree. But let's just say that all my friends were like, I don't know if I want to go to college. I don't know if I really know good at it. And you sort of blow it off. But for a poor person, and particularly if you grew in an impoverished area, what education does to you, especially college, it takes you out of the area, thus changing your mindset, right? Because now you're exposed to people that you're not normally going to be exposed to. Using a loose example, if I grew up in government housing, and I've been there all my life. I've been around the same people, the same mentality, but a little piece of me knows there's something out there that's different. So maybe I go to school in New York, because I'm from LA, right? I go to school in New York, and I go to Columbia because I was smart enough to get in there, although I was, if I use the first example, unable to go to Harvard. And I take summer courses at Harvard because that's all I can afford. Either way, it's taking you around different people. That's what college serves for a person that needs an opportunity to do something else. Now, of course, it serves as an opportunity for anybody, right? Because there's an alumni association, right? If I go to Harvard, there's an alumni association that goes with Harvard, right? There's people that I'm not going to meet if I go to Harvard, right? Period. Like wherever I'm from, right? I might know some of these people already, but I'm still going to be exposed to even more people. So the advice carries anywhere. But I wanted the people that had a poor mindset to understand what education was doing for you and how you were kind of doing yourself a disservice if you didn't go to college or if you don't even anticipate going to college. If you're of that age, and if you're not of that age but you're a lot older, then you network, you expose yourself to something that you don't normally do. Right? Okay. Another way is, okay. You guys are going to be mad again, but it is not the only reason to get married. But, I mean, living with your boyfriend for eternity is probably not going to, that's what I'm going to say about that, because I don't want you to send me hate mail. But the generations nowadays really don't value marriage, and they're like, well, I need to get married, and we love each other and all of this stuff. Which when you start turning like 60 is probably going to make a difference. When you start turning, okay, it's not the only reason to get married, obviously, but if you can and you know you're going to be with this person, get married. Stop with the out of wedlock stuff. Get married. Stop living with each other for eternity. Get married. Okay? Get married. There are a million benefits for married people, and it is because it encourages you to get married. Benefits that you don't even know about because you don't plan on getting married. but they aren't there if we're talking finances, so don't beat me up. I'm not saying get married for money or get married for benefits. I'm saying if you know you're going to be with this person and you guys have basically built, I know people with house payments and kids. They have a mortgage and children, and their kids still go to school with a different last name than the father or mother. And I'm like, what is the purpose of that? Like, why are you paying single taxes on that? Go, buy your property tax. It's these things that I encourage, would probably help the situation. Now, that's neither here nor there. But we do want to make sure, I don't want to go too far off on a tangent, but I do want to talk about, it does help you move out of what you're doing. You're going to have a lot more financial freedom if you guys are working together, and benefits if you're married. That's all I'm saying. So don't send me hate mail, don't write it. Okay, so the 5 things that I talked to you about helping to keep you poor. Now, how else can I help you with that? Now, I guess one of the biggest keys is to make sure you have a plan. We're going to start to build a plan as this series continues. We're going to start with, I started a little bit, I do encourage you, if you have not seen it, to watch a road map to financial freedom, because you have to get there first. Now, if you're already there, then you have to go to the next step. And if you're already rich, then you have to go to the next step in order to get to wealthy. If your goal is to be wealthy. Bonus. Not everybody wants to be wealthy. Everybody says they do. But I guarantee you, for some of you, those sacrifices will be too great. Especially if you're starting from zero. You're going to lose friends and everything else. I think the kids nowadays call them haters, right? Like, what exactly is that? It's a person that was in your old life that you're now advancing past. I love to use weight loss as an example because it's something we can all identify with, right? You were 40 pounds overweight. You have a little group that you hang out with the friends, and you guys are all overweight. You guys are all heavy. And you eat dinners and blah, 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 and you do everything. And you say, I'm going to lose weight. And at first they're going to be like, oh, great. You know what? Some of them will say, I'll do it with you. And some of them will be like, hey, that's good for you, but I'm not doing that. And you start to lose a pound or two. And they're like, oh, that's so wonderful, so great. But what happens when you lose 30 pounds? Your body starts to change, right? Now your body doesn't look anything like it used to look, right? Those of you that have done this, what was the reaction of the people you used to hang out with? If they still talk to you? Because some people will just straight away stop talking. They'll make up all kinds of stuff. You think you're better than them. Since your body changed, now you think they'll start making up a bunch of stuff that you're probably not even thinking, but you just feel good about yourself because you lost a lot of weight. So the reality of the situation is, and I say all that to say this, you're going to lose those friends. Some of them. Now, some will stay with you, but it'll be harder, right? Because now they're looking at you every day, and you're just looking great, and the other day you wore a bikini to the beach, and she's trying to hang out with you, and it's not going to be... So think of your finances the same way. You grew up in an area where people have a certain mindset, and your whole family and generations have had the same mindset, and you're that one kid or that one person that wanted to break that chain. And so what happens? You start out, and some people are behind you, and some people immediately are not behind you. Some people are like, what are you trying to do? Who are you trying to be? You're not that person. Like, you're trying to turn into something that you're not. And you're like, no, I just, don't want to. And then some people will be like, great. What, you got a great job? Oh my God, I'm so happy for you. You should go out and celebrate. But after you get past the great job and you own a company, and it's not just a regular company, you go from baking cookies to being Mrs. Fields, it's gonna start to change, right? Because your mindset's gonna start to change. going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult for the people that stick with you because they're going to be still broke, right? They're going to be hoping you help them. But you probably will do, but let's say you don't. So it's important. It's important to know how far you want to go before we go any further. So I say all that to say that. Do you really want to be wealthy or you just want to be comfortable? Do you really want to be comfortable or do you want to be rich? Do you really want to be rich or do you, where in that spectrum of all of this financial information that I'm giving you do you want to be? Because each one is going to determine more sacrifice. Right? It's just the way that it is. And it's the reality of the situation. As you start to change and grow, so does your financial. Okay? I have some questions. Let's answer them. Okay. Why do you need an emergency fund as a millionaire? Okay, so your choice in wording when you say as a millionaire makes me think that you're probably not. You said, you're asking the question, why do you need an emergency fund, which lets me know you don't have one. The question forms itself by your choice in wording as if you're just curious about why would a person that's in that status need an emergency fund because you don't understand why. Not necessarily that you're there and you're trying to build one. Well, because when you have a portfolio and you are worth a lot of money, you don't have access to that right away. If you have something in an investment or you don't get that money as soon as you demand it. You don't say, hey, I need a couple mil, right now, out of my investment in Tesla. It doesn't work like that. They don't just send you it's not like a bank where you just go in there and pull out the money. So I say emergency fund in the sense that it's easy to access. If it's in a savings, which is not an ideal for a long-term investment, but it's an ideal if you have an emergency and you need to go in there, right? Boom, so get sick, medical funds. You don't want to have to go into your portfolio and try to pull out these investments in a certain amount of days. You want to be able to be like, okay, boom, let's pay this right away, let's move forward with whatever we're doing. That's an emergency fund. So by that I mean you need money at any income level because you need easy access money at any income level that you're not taking from the base of what you're doing. Later on I'll tell you that those are two separate things, right? But right now we'll just stick with that. We'll stick with the fact that you need an emergency fund at any financial level because you need to access your money quickly. What you are financially on paper is going to be different than what you are financially just holding in your bank account or what you have in your savings. And we'll get into that a little bit later, but I need you to know that there's a difference to that. There's a method to the madness of why I said the word emergency specifically. It's easy access very quickly by an ATM or, going into the bank. Versus, give me a couple days, I've got to pull it out of my, I'll make something up, mutual fund or whatever, pull it out of wherever my investment is. We don't want to have to do that if it's an emergency. Okay? You said to take away from one thing and put it in another. What do you mean by that? Okay, so I'm going to assume you looked at all the other videos. Thank you. And you're probably asking when I said about taking away from one thing and giving to another in order to save. All right? So I'll give you an example. You have an iPhone. You just want one. You are just all the way thinking about, I need the 12. I don't want the 11 anymore. You threw the 11 to the side. You're sick of that. That's out. You're getting the new technology now. It's all about the 12 with the 5G. Okay. If you go out and you spend $1,000, and I'm talking if you're financially free. If you are not financially free, do not buy the latest iPhone. Do not buy the latest technology, period. So I am not talking to you right now. Do not do this. But don't buy it on payments. Don't nothing. Don't get one. Okay. But let's just say you have $1,000 and you're like, okay, I'm getting an iPhone. It's happening. Right now, I don't want the little one. I want the big iPhone. I want to get the 12. I'm getting the 12, and I'm not getting the SE. I'm getting the 12. Period. So you go and you pay $1,000 for this iPhone. In my method, you do not go to Verizon and pay that $200 monthly bill for that iPhone. No, you need to make a sacrifice. So your sacrifice is going to be, maybe you go to T-Mobile or Metro PCS or Cricket or whatever else they have going on to provide for that phone. Now, if you don't want to do that, then you sacrifice the phone and you get a cheap phone. That's what I mean. And then you take the balance of those two things you would have wasted all that money on and you put it in a savings. So you take away from this. This is how I want you to constantly be thinking. For everything you do until you get to the point where you want to get to, which is still not going to change in real life, but I'm going to just lie to you and say it is. You constantly taking from one thing and putting it into something else. So that's what I mean by take away. So I use this iPhone as an example because I actually did have this conversation just recently. Oh, you bought an iPhone. Okay, what? Oh, you have Verizon. No, you don't anymore. Now you're going to go get something else. We're going to take the leftover that you would have been paying into Verizon into the savings that you don't have. That's what we're doing. And that's good because you sacrifice the monthly, which you can put in monthly instead of sacrificing the phone, which you would have had to take whatever you were going to spend on the phone, put that in the savings. So that's why I use that as an example. So that's what I meant by that. I meant constantly thinking, because I'm changing your thinking in a sort of a this for this, sacrifice for sacrifice, here for here. Because in real life, you need an iPhone 12. What are you doing that you need an iPhone and it has to be a 12? Like you can't even get, something else. It has to. In real life, you're just trying to keep up with the technology. You want to keep up with the Joneses, and you don't need to do that. Especially, I will repeat it again, if you are not financially free, which I suspect some of you watching are not, you don't need an iPhone, period. You get something you can use, get yourself a little computer or some sort of, like a tablet, and you use those, okay? Until you have money to throw away on a phone. And even then, I'm requiring I'm recommending that you make a sacrifice even when you do that. But I can tell you many people I see with an iPhone and they're on the bus. Why does this make sense? What is your relationship with money that you have an iPhone? And I'm talking the latest ones, and they're making payments on it, like $30 a month. They're paying on this iPhone with Verizon service. And I'm thinking to myself, but you don't have a car. How does this make sense? Why do you even need an iPhone? I have an iPhone, but I just got one. But before that, I would have had a flip phone if I didn't need it. I don't really care. Not running out. And I don't recommend you, if you don't have a car, to be having an iPhone at the bus station. This shows very clearly the relationship with money is not balanced. It's just, to me, that sounded crazy. Or it looked crazy that this person was on the bus and they had an iPhone. And the latest one, they didn't even have an old iPhone. They had like a new one. Okay. How do I pay 60 days of rent when I barely had the money to move in? Oh, you've been watching my videos. Love it. Okay, first of all, thank you too. Okay, so ways around this. Okay, so let's say when you move in, you don't have 60 days. Okay, I was understanding that, and I get it. But you pay on it. You pay on it. So that the less you have to pay when it's, an emergency time, the better. So let's say you have $1,000 for an iPhone. Okay, no, you're paying $30 a month for an iPhone that you don't need. Get a cheaper phone, whatever you need to get, and pay that over on your rent, right? It's just to get you in the habit for when you're ready to do that, you go put it on your rent. So what am I saying in essence? I'm saying make it a priority, right? Sometimes you pay things according to priority. If you're putting your 60-day rent as not a priority, then you're just going to pay on time every time. So you have to make wanting to pay that a priority. So raise the priority level of your rent being paid early. Okay? That's how you do that. You make paying your rent 60 days in advance a priority. And you will pay on that before you pay on anything else. Because at the end of the day, if you're renting, you can leave it. You can be held accountable for leaving at any time. Let's say you pay your rent on time, but the renter wants to take the house back. You know, their son wants to move in there because he just graduated from college or whatever, and he needs a place to stay. You have to move. And the time that you have to move in is going to be determined by how much you already paid them. Okay, so let's say you're financially free or whatever, but you're renting. Even if you're just paying these very large $1 million rents to live in Beverly Hills, if you're paying $75,000 a month, and you are renting, and the person wants their house back, and you've only, you're going to finish out the month and then be done with no money back. Even if they make you still leave, you still get money back now. So think of it that way. Okay, so we also have, how do I live my dreams and still save for financial freedom? How do I live my dreams and still save for financial freedom? People. Okay, so this is going to be kind of a long sort of answer, but the thing about it is, the first thing you have to evaluate how do you live your dreams and still save for, you said financial freedom, so that means you're not even at financial freedom yet. You have to evaluate your dream. I'm going to use Hollywood as an example because I come from Hollywood. So I come from actors and all of this lifestyle, living and working at studios. So you see a person with great passion for acting. I mean, they're probably still to this day not a main actor and don't make enough money to live on. And they, they read and they're at every audition and they, sacrifice and they work, I don't know, a lot of people are waitresses and Starbucks baristas and whatever. And you're doing all that and you have a passion for something. But they never check their proficiency level. Thus, your profit level. Right? If you have a passion for something and you're not proficient at it, that is a hobby. You not bank your finances on a hobby unless you're proficient at it. Then it becomes profitable, which means you're not going to be asking this question. So, don't send me hate mail, okay, the person that asked this question. I'm trying to help you. So if you're, whatever you're doing, so I used acting as an example because everybody wants to be an actor, but most people just want to be famous. They don't even care that it's acting, but acting seems like an easy way to become famous, right? But they're not proficient at what they're doing, right? Why is Denzel? Because he's Denzel, right? He's proficient at something, right? Why is, Brad Pitt? Not because he's the greatest actor in the world, but he's proficient at looking good, right? And he can act a little bit. I saw him in Fight Club, so he's pretty decent. But the proficiency level must be there. So living your dream and living your hobby is going to affect you financially. And I say all that to say that, to answer your question in this way. First, decide before you do anything else, because your dream is not making you money. So there's an element missing out of the 3 elements you need in order to live your quote-unquote dream. You have passion because you're still sticking to it according to the way that you phrased your question. But it's not making you money according to the way that you phrased your question. And you haven't asked yourself, it seems like, if you're proficient at what you do. Right? If I come on here and give you financial advice and you can't use any of it because I don't know what I'm talking about, you're going to stop watching crazy. Because I'm not proficient. You're going to be like, she's a different, no, if I'm telling you to spend up all your money and you don't have to save anything and, you never have to, after a while, the first couple of sentences, you're probably going to be like, even if you don't know finances, that sounds wrong. So you're going to be like, that doesn't sound right. Then you're going to double check my information and go, she's not proficient at what she's talking about, right? So it's to live your dream financially in a positive note. If you check the proficiency of it and you realize, okay, yeah, no, I am, and I'm just getting started, and therefore I'm just new at it. You still have to have a budget. The way that you phrase the question lets me know you also don't have that. You might have let me clarify something. Here's a bonus. To budget does not just mean bills. Some people say, I've got a budget. I'm still struggling financially. Alex, I've got a budget. I don't know what you're talking about, but I budget my bills, and they say the word my bills right after. That is not a budget. That is, I budget my bills. That's not what I'm asking you to do. I'm saying budget your every dollar and put them into categories. Entertainment, living expenses, and savings. That's a budget. I budget my bills, but I spend everything else all crazy, then no. I'm defeating the purpose. That's all I'm going to ever pay on my bills. Because I don't know what I'm spending at any given time outside of that. So, to answer your question, which I did a full thing of answering your question, but just a smaller way to answer your question, what it sounds like to me is you may budget your living expenses, but not everything else. And you need to be budgeting all of your money. And check your proficiency on this dream. I think I'm going to do something on a dream, because people ask me a lot of questions about how they're living their dream, and and particularly if they want to be in entertainment because they know that I come from that industry, and they're like, how do I become a great director? And I'm like, well, are you great? How long have you been directing? Well, I don't know. I've taken in classes. No, but I have a passion for it. And it's like, passion does not equal profit. I have a passion for ballet dancing, but the average age in ballet dancing is below 26. And I'm not even in my 20s, so I'll tell you where I am, but way past that, okay? So there's no way that, even though I do it, I go to classes because they're fun to take, and I used to be in ballet, but I'm not doing that professionally, and I cannot base my finances on doing that this late in life. I have a passion, but it's not real. I'm not going to be proficient at that at this age, not comparing myself to someone that's, 16. You have to let it go and downshift it into something that's not going to be your profit, if that's what you're doing. So I don't know if that's what you're doing, because I don't know, but I go based on the way you guys the choice of wording, the way you guys phrase the question. So, all right, not a lot here left, but I wanted to make sure I covered as much as I could. Do keep your questions coming. They do help a lot. Like I said, if someone has a question, somebody else has a question. Make sure you watch and rewatch, because to change your way of viewing money and to change your mindset and to do all of these things, you have to sort of repeat the information. So you'll see me say a lot of things almost repetitively, and I try to say them in different ways as well, but it comes out to being sometimes the same thing. But it's because I want you to get to the point where I can say, portfolio, your investment, your dividends. I can use all these terms, and you just kind of know them because you've heard me say them, and you have a definition for them in your mind. Okay? Thanks so much. I will see you guys next time. I do appreciate you guys coming. Make sure you subscribe and press the bell, because the bell will help you know what shows are being posted when we do different series. And we have a trial series coming up. We have trials that are already on there, relationships, all of these series. So it'll post, and it'll help if you just want to watch this one series. Then you'll know exactly when we post them. Everybody mostly knows we do them on Wednesdays, but in case we do some sort of bonus posting, I might do one on living dream financially. So thank you so much. I will see you next time. Let's hope that I can cut this out correctly. Have a good one.